How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the Tactical Empire. I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest, Paul Halme, who is a former stockbroker turned MMA gym owner and has since parlayed that into a consulting company that is niched down specifically to helping other MMA gym owners. So, Paul, welcome. I'm looking forward to talking to you. You have a diverse background. I love it.
Thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me when you got out of being a stockbroker and how that came about. Why did you leave that industry?
I perfectly timed that at the wrong time. So I always joke around about like bad timing. It's like I started as a stockbroker in 2001. And of course, 9/11 happened. So it's like, okay, I'm getting fired, but ended up like surviving that and just working through that and built it up. Like had the typical American dream. I had the 6-figure corporate job, had wife, 2 kids, dog, everything. And it was like, okay, now what do I do? It's like, I've done everything I want to do and I'm, 30 years old and it's like, I got to figure something out. And I started gaining weight and was getting fat, getting lazier. And my buddy was at the time had an MMA gym and I'd help him with some stuff. And he was trying to get into the UFC way back in the day, back in 2001, I think he got in. And then he got in the UFC and then I started doing stuff with him. And I'm like, man, this entrepreneurship stuff's cool. You guys get to like go do a bunch of stuff. Yeah, you work every day, but does it really work? And then I got a little bit deeper into it. And then my wife she was real supportive and talked to me to open up a gym. And I did a 1-year lease and did both jobs for 2 years. And I was like, hey, I think I can make it at this. And then one thing led to another. And so, I was out of corporate America and then just running wild. And then that was in 2007. Of course, we know what happened in 2008. The recession hit. I was like, come on. But it was good. It was a good experience. Like people are kind of nervous about recessions right now. And I'm like, man. So after we went through in 2000 or 2020, it was like, dude, recessions are going to be a cakewalk because during the pandemic, you couldn't sell anything. It was like, you couldn't like get new customers in a recession. You're still able to get new customers. You just have to improve your product, improve your marketing, do everything better, but at least you can be open. So that's why I tell my clients to give them a sense of hope because everybody's like, oh, the recession's coming. I'm like, man, we might already be in a recession. We don't even know yet. When they tell us we'll be halfway through but it's going to be way better than a pandemic.
I think we are fully in a recession right now. I mean, we've got 1 quarter of negative GDP. I think a second one's coming in June. So
yeah, it feels like it.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it does.
Dude, it's
everybody
it's
except the media.
Yeah, the media is insane. Like we had a date night yesterday and we ordered shrimp cocktail and I didn't pay attention to the price. I was like, oh, let's get some shrimp cocktail for appetizer. And the bill came. I'm like, whoa, what? It was $32 for 4 shrimp. I was like, what in the? I'm like, this is. Inflation's gone crazy. It's not 9%, guys, or 7.8%. We're saying it's like that thing was like 100% markup from, a year ago.
Yeah. It's we're in for some interesting times. Tell me, so you've been in the game a long time then, as far as the gym game, probably going on 20 years, 19 years,
20 years next year will be the big one.
Woo.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of ups and downs and rounds and everything in between.
Certainly. And then when did you start your consulting company?
We started that 6 years ago. So One of those things where everybody's asking like, hey, because my niche that I had was I never won anything major. I was just a regular guy that came from corporate America, but I understood business and finance better than these guys that were like superhuman athletes and competitors. And they were like, how come your gym does well, mine doesn't? I'm like, well, started showing people stuff. And then of course, everybody's, oh, I want to pick your brain. They take you to lunch and you're like, you give them the whole everything and they don't do anything. I'm like, okay, this is not going well. So I'm like, one of my friends was like, hey, I'm going to start a consulting company. I was like, cool. Can I work with you? And I started doing stuff. And then one thing led to another. And then I became a partner in that company because I was, doing way more than I was supposed to be doing. I was just there to help out with like Facebook ads and teach people basic stuff. But then he just liked my hustle and he's like, oh, I want to make you a partner in this. And then we took off and we ran it up and it was man, it was awesome. 2019, everything was hitting on all cylinders. And then the 2020 came and all of a sudden we're consulting for a non-essential business. It's like, oh boy, this is going to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you guys since recovered, or like, obviously I presume you took a dip. Like I do mentoring for fitness business owners too. And it actually stayed very flat because people needed guidance. So they like weren't quitting their consulting and mentoring services because they needed like an outlet. They needed some guidance, like a finger on the pulse.
Yeah, our industry was weird. It was people, we had like, I'd say half the people were like that. We're like, man, I need help. I need this. And then the other half were just like, oh my God, the sky is falling, and they cancel everything. And then unfortunately, those are the ones that are still suffering now. And the ones that stuck it out are actually doing really well. Like their gyms are picking up, they're doing better. So we lost over half our clients, in 2020 to 2021. And then we've been rebuilding, and we're still a little bit behind where we were, but we've kind of restructured our business model a little bit to not be as big. We got kind of almost too big at one point where it was just, it wasn't fun anymore.
Okay. Gotcha. You guys are, I assume you're pretty heavily represented out in California.
Actually, no, California is like our super weak area, which is really weird because there's a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms out there, but we're very southeast. I get part of it is probably because of location, and we don't do a lot of stuff out there, which is probably our fault. Like I'm in Texas. One of my main partners is in Mississippi. And then one of our other guys is in North Carolina. So we're kind of like in the Southeast But it's like the Southwest is the thing to figure out eventually, because there's so many gyms in California. But the problem is in California, they had the hardest shutdown. So people were.
Exactly.
Yeah. Our industry is a little bit different, I guess, than gyms, because gyms, get the model, people are going. Ours are so personality driven. Like each gym is just so different, and it all depends on that person.
Yeah. I actually just had a conversation with a guy who's pretty high level jiu-jitsu guy in Houston. And he said that, and I don't know this to be true, and I don't know why, we didn't really get into it, but he said that the like jiu-jitsu capital of the country was always California until COVID.
Yep.
And it shifted to Texas. Actually, he did tell me why. He said it's because we could still run tournaments in Texas. And so everybody that was competing came down to Texas because they were still having regular competitions, paid competitions with prize money and everything else. And so it's really caused a migration of high level jiu-jitsu to be down in Texas as opposed to California. Texas and Florida, we got the most tournaments, during everything. Florida was up there too. And Florida is real big because Brazilians love Florida. Also, they love California the most for some reason, but Texas has had a big influx. It's kind of weird. It's more Houston and Austin. Like the Dallas Fort Worth area is kind of like, we've had a few people, there's been some real big names go to Austin, like super big names, like Gordon Ryan came from New Jersey, and he's the biggest name in jiu-jitsu right now and competition jiu-jitsu. And then a few really good world champions went to Austin. So Austin's been like a hotbed for jiu-jitsu, which is pretty crazy. Huh. That's interesting. Are they training at the same gym?
No, they're all at different ones, which is crazy. So you have 3 or 4 superstars that all moved to Austin, and everybody's like, oh, it's Joe Rogan's fault. Everybody wants to go to Austin because he's there. But a lot of them got, Gordon Ryan, he was very public about it, was the taxes and the shutdowns. He was like, man, I'm done with New Jersey. He's like, you guys can have it. It's like, I'm taking my tax money to Texas where they're not going to take as much from me. But yeah, they're, and a lot of them, because in jiu-jitsu, they all want to have their own gyms. So there's like 4 or 5 new ones in Austin of just like super high caliber guys.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So what do you enjoy doing? You have 2 kids, obviously. Yep. What do you enjoy doing outside of business?
Man, outside of business, my passion was travel. Of course, that was shut down for a couple of years. So I really enjoyed travel hacking, doing fun stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things to do. Besides, jiu-jitsu, the gym, the family stuff. But outside all that, man, people laugh at me like on social media because I'll love just to hang out at an airport and go somewhere. It's my favorite thing to do. I love to travel alone just because, you can just get so much thinking done and work done and just decompressing. It's wild. But of course I love traveling with my wife too, though. She's fun.
Awesome. Tell me, you mentioned travel hacking. Tell me what that means to you.
Man, I'm a travel nut. So since I was a kid, I'd never gone anywhere my whole life. Like I grew up in South Dakota, you know, it was like my first vacations were going from the eastern part of South Dakota to the western part of South Dakota. So when I moved to Texas and my best friend was down here, he went to compete in Brazil. I was 22 years old. And I was like, man, I can't afford to go there. And one of the guys overheard me. He's like, oh, my wife's a flight attendant. You know, I can get you a buddy pass. It's going to cost you like $75. I'm like, dude, sign me up. So 22-year-old kid, single, walking around the beaches of Rio. I'm like, oh my God, this is unreal. This is the greatest thing I've ever experienced in my life. I have to do more of this. And so literally just started traveling a bunch. And so for me, travel hacking is racking up as many points as I can. Like I try to game the system, you know, with, you know, unfortunately I'm in DFW, which good and bad. American Airlines is kind of up and down. The service sucks half the time. They cancel most of their flights. Like everybody says Delta's better, but DFW is owned by A, so I can't do much there. But so always travel hacking with that, you know, and then a few years ago, I got into the, you know, hotel travel hacking with points like that too. So it's like, to me, like I joke around, like I planned our 20-year anniversary for like 2 years, and we went to Bangkok, flew business class to Bangkok. Then we flew on the Emirates A380, the one that's got like a shower and a walk-up bar. And then we stayed at the Ritz in Hong Kong. And literally I paid like probably $500 for the whole trip. I mean, it was insane. You know, we were staying in the St. Regis and the Ritz, and I had all these points, and I'm like, this is the way to do it.
So how are you doing that? Are you using like Amex Platinums or for your business, or how are you running up the points like that?
Yeah, well, I it's tricky because you have to with the airlines. It's annoying now because they're linking a lot of their programs to dollars spent instead of like miles flown. Right. So like American, I have to have an American credit card, so I get points that go towards everything. But then you get like really cool free stuff with it. So you have the American card, you can go to all the American Airlines clubs. You know, so you're at the airport, it makes it way more fun because then you can eat and drink for free and hang out. Amex has the best lounges though with the platinum card. They're my favorite, but they get their rules are pretty crazy. Like you can only bring in like two family members. So if we would try to go 1 year and I couldn't bring one of my kids in. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. But you know, so I'll use
Centurion Lounge.
Yeah, the Centurion Lounge. Yep. Man, they have good food, good drinks.
Oh yeah, they do.
Love hanging out there. So yeah, I have the American Airlines card I do that one for the points on that one. Then I do the Centurion one for like the lounges and the Amex stuff. And then I do the Marriott Bonvoy card, which just gets you a ton of points. It's like, and they charge like $100 a year, but then they give you a free night stay every year. So basically the card's free too. So yeah, I'm always moving around cards, trying to figure out which one I need more points on and doing stuff like that. And that's the way to do it. Cause you get those points, you can do a lot of cool stuff for free, or you can upgrade experiences, which is even better.
Right. Yeah. I'm always trying to figure out I'm usually very lazy about that stuff. Like I just kind of waste it and let the opportunities pass by. But I'm getting better and more cognizant about what's available to me. Cause like I've had Amex Platinums forever, and like, I've just got all these points sitting over there. And they really have like a full on travel agency that will set everything up for you.
Yeah. They're awesome.
And yeah. It's so from that side, it's incredible. I owned my gym for 11 years. We used Southwest card for all of that because Southwest's hub is in Houston. And so I can fly, especially once they started flying to Hawaii and Mexico.
Yeah. That changes the game.
Yeah. Because we've had companion pass for like 10 years. So my wife flies everywhere I buy a ticket for free. And so she's just like, I can just add her on to awesome. anything I buy. So like over COVID, I didn't fly for 2 years at all. And I had like 550,000 points built up and accumulated. And so we're burning through some of those now. I'm flying my mom down to watch our kids and stuff like that. But it's always interesting to hear how people kind of put those puzzle pieces together and game the system. Because there really is, so especially if you own a business.
Oh yeah.
Because you can run a ton of your charges through it.
Run everything through it. And the thing too, like it's a lot of experiences in life too. Because people always bitch about travel. Like, oh, I hate going to the airport. The lines suck. I'm like, cool, get pre-check. Well, that's $75 for 5 years. It's like, well, most credit cards will give you the $75 back. It's like, spend a little time, get pre-check. Then, because you go to the airport, then you go to the lounges. I mean, that's night and day hanging out in the Centurion Lounge versus hanging out in the terminal.
Yes.
It's like, Wi-Fi, free drinks, charge your stuff. Nobody bothers you. It's so nice.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
They feed you in half of them.
Like, yeah. They have good food too.
Yeah. It's fun. Fun. Where's the best place you've ever been? You went to Bangkok? How was that?
Man, Bangkok's amazing. It's one of my favorite places on earth. So, that probably to this still is my favorite place. I've been there a bunch. I've been to like Bangkok and Phuket a bunch. Phuket's cool, but it's hot. Bangkok's hot, but man, it's just something about the culture and the people. Like I spent a lot of time because of, MMA gyms and training and stuff. Spent a lot of time like in Europe and Asia, and I've been all over like Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, all that stuff. But man, Bangkok, the culture, the people, just it's my favorite place to go because you can just unwind and everybody's just so nice. It's unreal.
I love it. I love it, man.
It's a long flight though.
Yeah. How long is it?
Man, if you connect through Hong Kong, it's like 16 hours to Hong Kong and then another 4 to Bangkok, plus, taxi and layover time and all that stuff. So usually it's about 24 hours from door to door.
Yeah. Jeez. That's a commitment for sure.
It's a commitment. Yeah.
How long do you usually go over there?
See, that's the hard part because with family and kids and stuff like that, I usually only stay for like 7 to 9 days, which you need to stay 2 weeks to a month, but it's a hard being away from your family that long is like hard to justify, I joke around with my wife, said in a couple more years, when my son will be done with school and everything, and we can just kind of like disappear I joke around. I want to avoid the Texas winters because January and February gets cold in Dallas and people just roll their eyes from South Dakota. I'm like, you'll understand. It gets like 30 degrees and I hate it.
Yeah. So, I can relate.
You know what it's like too.
Yeah,
January and February is weird here. We're spoiled the rest of the year.
For sure. I'm just like, there's very few places we can stay in the United States and continue to move south towards the equator.
Yeah.
I don't mind the heat at all. But I'm originally from Illinois. And so I'm used to dealing with all the seasons and having winter and fall and all that. And our family from up there just thinks it's insanely hot in Texas.
I'll take it. I don't have to shovel heat.
Absolutely. So you've been in the game for a really long time. So I have a lot of fascinating questions to ask you, I guess. Like, what's your preferred like mixed martial arts modality for you personally? For me personally, jiu-jitsu, hands down. Okay.
Just because like in your 20s, you're like kickboxing and MMA is cool and getting hits okay and all that kind of hurt, then you get in your 30s and you're like, man, these headaches are lasting a lot longer and it's not feeling so good. And then your body does not agree with all the wrestling. And it's like jujitsu, man, you can do that, especially gi jujitsu. If people aren't listening to that, it's like, looks like a karate uniform, but it's like a judo jacket, whatever. You can slow down the younger kids. So you can lessen the wear and tear on your body a lot more and do it for a longer time. So yeah, especially now I'm in my mid 40s. Yeah. Jujitsu for sure.
Gotcha.
And it's just fun.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. I'm just talking to my kids about getting into jiu-jitsu. They might actually start this week.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I used to train when I was in the military, the Gracies would come in to Tacoma and train my Ranger battalion.
Nice.
Different times throughout the year, a couple times throughout the year. They would send their whole staff up and like do private training for us.
Yeah. They do a lot of stuff with the military. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. And they were in Vegas, so it was just a short hop up to Washington State because I was stationed in Tacoma, Washington.
Okay.
And so we had some really great instructors in there. And so it's been something that I wanted my girls to get involved in because my girls are 9, 7, and 3, and my son is 5.
Okay.
And so they all want to do it now, though.
That's awesome. Yeah. I tell every parent, every little girl should know jiu-jitsu. I mean, hands down. It's like, because the thing is, you hope nothing bad ever happens to them, knock on wood, and probably nothing will, but there's that one small percentage, something bad is going to happen. But if they can just fight back, I mean, you've been in the military, so you've been around, people that were kind of, you've seen the good and bad in people, but bad people, they don't want to deal with somebody that wants to fight back. They want somebody that's going to cower down and just ball up and cry, and then they're going to torture resistance. Them. Yeah. You give them a little resistance, man. They're not liking that, and right. So they, hopefully they move on and nothing happens to her. We have that happen. I've had a few students where that's happened, but I mean, knock on wood, you don't ever want a student to go through that, but you want them to at least have the fundamentals to at least try to get away.
Yeah. It's by far the best discipline, in my opinion, for females because of like the leverage and the size. How it's a great equalizer.
Oh, and it's funny too, at the age your kids are, is hilarious because the girls can beat the boys because they're on a level playing field, and then once the boys hit puberty, then they're stronger and they can, but the girls, man, that's hilarious at my gym. I love to watch the little 5 and 6 year old girls just beating up on the boys. It's hilarious.
That the guy I was telling you about from Houston, his daughter's 10 and she's like nationally ranked. And
oh,
he
nice.
was showing us some videos of her and she's a stud. Yeah. She had her whole intro music and video and like her mean, angry face on her walk to the mat.
Who's the guy in Houston?
His name's Casey. What was his name? Casey. I don't know his last name.
Okay.
I'd have to look it up for you, but
you have to send it to me. I'll look him up. I'm sure he's a good dude.
Yeah. And he came from California because him and his brother opened 3 gyms out there. And then he moved to Houston and lives up north of Houston. He's got another 2 gyms, I want to say, in Houston now. And he's trying to acquire a bunch more.
Nice.
But yeah, his daughter's really into it. And she just got into it from watching him, which
cool.
I love as a parent. Like they watch everything we do and
they do
everything we do. How old are your kids?
And 17 and 19. So okay. I'm on the other end of it. So my son was funny. He was like all into it, everything. He became a teenager and didn't want to do what dad does anymore. So then, but now he's 19, he's starting to kind of come back towards doing it a little bit. So it's kind of fun to see.
Yeah. I'm sure it's good skills regardless.
Oh yeah.
I mean, once you have the skill set down, it's going to benefit you no matter what, as opposed to having never experienced it at all. Yeah. Right.
It's like that old saying, you don't want to be the gardener in a war. You want to be the samurai in the garden or whatever, however that one goes. But it's like
the warrior in the garden.
Warrior in the garden. Yeah.
Yep.
It's
exactly.
It's what you want to be. It's like, I don't ever want to, people always like, oh, you must, when I was young, you must get in fights all the time. I'm like, never. It's like, I don't want to get in a fight with somebody. That's the stupidest idea ever. I do it for fun and enjoyment. And it's like, no, on the street, everything's different. People get shot all the time and for no reason at all, because they could have avoided it. That's one thing you learn from training is like how to get out of situations. Like, just disarming something. Cause it's not, you want to lose your life over something simple that you could have talked your way out of.
Right. Yeah. De-escalating.
Yeah. Huge.
Situations is huge. And having a lot of that though is confidence though, in my opinion, having the quiet confidence to know that either way it goes, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want the other way, but it's like, that's the way we have to go. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that oftentimes that's underestimated as the factor in those situations. Cause when stuff gets really weird and sideways, a lot of times it's because the other person is not nearly as confident about the situation.
Yeah. And then they're the barking one. They're the loud one.
Yep. Absolutely. So tell me like what your mission is with your consulting company. Like what's that all about? What are you guys looking to do for your gym owners?
And for me, for the gym owners, what I'm trying to do now, I've hit another phase of my life. I always joke around like I'll be 50 in 4 years. So I was like, for me, it was like sales, marketing, improving your business systems. That stuff's always fun and we can do it. But what I'm really passionate about is teaching these guys how to start investing and putting money away, because we're all guilty of it. We've all been in a spot where like, man, I just keep dumping all my money back in my business. And before COVID, the biggest people would always tell me, well, I get a better return from my business than I do from anything else, from the stock market or from real estate or from any or whatever. But it's like, that's fine and great. But if you have no money, what happened in 2020, the people that didn't have money were freaking out. Like, what do we do? It's like, how do we keep the doors open? So, I was doing a little bit of that before COVID, but now it's like, that's my favorite thing to help people with is like, just get them the basics. Cause a lot of them are just not doing anything. They're really good entrepreneurs or they finally get to the point of running the gym well, but then they're like, okay, now I don't have any other money. And like we were talking about before this, having more revenue streams. Yeah. It's like, man, I wish, I joked around with my wife, like we'll be fine for when COVID happened. I'm like, we'll be fine for a couple of years. I don't want to sell a bunch of stuff. And then I was looking at it. I'm like, man, my investments are one thing, but I need way more passive income streams. Cause it's like, if this ever happens again, I want to be having like 10 different checks coming in a month, not like a couple.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm passionate about. Is like, I want to use my primary business to funnel that cash flow into other assets that are going to cycle that money again and provide additional cash flow. And so that's exactly what I train my people on, like help with the gym owners that I work with and the other entrepreneurs I work with as well, is about like, don't lose focus in your primary business, obviously. Cause I mean, we talked about that and how it can kind of go sideways, and I've experienced that as well. Fortunately for me, I had built up plenty of revenue streams and quite a bit of passive income to give me options as well. And so I think that that's important. And you're right. I mean, a lot of the business owners, oftentimes, even if they're not quote unquote reinvesting, there's a law of diminishing returns in most cases, unless your marketing and your cost of acquisition is really dialed in. Then you can figure out like what those levers look like. Cause everyone talks about cost per lead. It makes it fucking doesn't matter at all.
Just get the leads.
The acquisition is what matters. Like, what is the actual full on cost of acquisition? Because then you can figure out like truly if you should, and then you need to know your length of engagement and how long your clients stay with you. And so what each client is worth to you, and then what it costs to acquire them. And you can kind of do the math and then decide if you want to back the Brinks truck up and do you have the ability to fulfill, right? Because I mean, if you get $2 for every dollar you put in, when should you stop putting in dollars? Yeah. Never, really. I mean, never. You like go out and borrow as much money as you can possibly do to do that return, right? But it doesn't always work out like that. Obviously, I mean, if we've got 5 staff members, you can only push so many people into that space, right? Until it's going to break.
Yep.
So yes, I'm with you on that, in alignment 100% on like they have to produce additional revenue streams. And whatever that looks like, and especially with the uncertainty of everything, right?
Oh yeah,
like you have to invest in things that actually hold value and like real assets, in my opinion, which is businesses like precious metals, shit like that. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the prices of watches and stuff like that.
It's insane. It's literally crazy. They've doubled. Some of them tripled. It's wild. Never seen anything like it. Used cars, even. I mean, there's so many weird things going on right now. The economy makes no sense. I'm just like, what are we living through?
Yeah, simple retail Rolexes are like doubling in value year over year right now.
So crazy
because you can't get them. It's crazy. It is. It's wild stuff. But it's certain things that people discount as actual investments, though, which they're missing the boat on that stuff.
Oh yeah.
If I can buy a watch for $20,000 and sell it for $50,000 in 10 months, that's an investment.
That's an investment.
Right. And so, obviously real estate is my passion and what I'm into. And that's where we put most of our money. But I mean, that's not necessarily for everyone. If you're a great operator or you're great at a certain aspect of business, like I think that there's a lot of money to be made in investing in businesses and bringing your skill set to that business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's definitely something people should look at doing if they have the skill set for it.
Like if you're a marketing guy or something like that, and that's your juice, and you've got the available liquid cash. I mean, you should be networking and making friends with as many small business owners as you can and say, hey, can I come in and take 20%, 15% of your business for X number? And like, I'll do the marketing.
Yeah.
And we can turn this thing wide open.
And that's the crazy thing. Yeah. If you got that skill set, that's like a great hustle for people because you can go in, people need it. I mean, I forget, I saw a post somewhere about like how the most small businesses still aren't, advertising on Facebook, and they're probably not even doing Google ads, just the most basic stuff. And if you can do that stuff for people, yeah, that's a huge way to make some extra money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot of times though, I think sometimes people get caught up in the shininess of paid ads where it's really like, just like everything else in life. It's organic is it's gonna serve you 100 times better. It's just more work.
It's more work, and people are like, "Oh, I don't want to do the work." And then they want to complain about the cost of leads for paid ads. And it's like, well, pick one. If you do both, your lead costs go down. Shocking. It's the conversation I have all the time.
Yep. Organic makes so much more sense though, when you really like unpack it all, because I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. You can get referrals from the people that you have, or you can go out in your community and meet people. And then you're already building those bridges of like know, like, and trust. It makes the sales process so much easier. If they hop on your social media page, they follow you, they kind of know you, like it really eliminates a lot of the objections that you're going to get, because they've already told you to fuck off by like, if you scroll my Facebook page, you know what I'm about. And like, you're like, yeah, fuck that guy. I don't like him. And so we're never sitting in a sales consultation if I've already like met you at a coffee shop or something like that. Right. Because I think people discount the ability to do that now though, because you can do it with social media too. And like, so it's not all organic. Like, hey, I'm walking down the street and I've got to spend hours of time. There's ways to do it and like utilize free opportunities within social media and different platforms to really get yourself and your business out there, as far as looking for leads at zero cost, but it takes sweat.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you got to put the sweat in if you want to not pay for it. But you can get crazy good results. You don't have to ever run ads. I mean, you put the work in.
But I mean, you've been around like the smaller gym spaces enough to know that like, hey man, what if I could guarantee you 12 qualified leads a month? Like, you don't need very much paid ads on top of that, especially if out of those 12, 9 of them have already scrolled your Facebook page and know what you're all about, because that's going to raise your like close rate exponentially, right?
Oh yeah.
Because of what we talked about, like they have a general idea of who you are, what you're all about, how much you cost probably.
Yeah, they have a general idea, and then they'll research you on your website, and those are the best ones when they come in, because then you just have to show them you can solve you have the solution for their problem, and then they just want to join, which depends which program it is.
100%, man. Well, man, that I love it. I love it that you're definitely in alignment with everything that I believe in, as far as like you're just helping entrepreneurs like take things to the next level. Because most of the time, like these guys come in with just a dream of, hey, I want to work for myself. And what they turn themselves into like a glorified job that they bought themselves. Right. With no plan or path, because I mean, you're 46 years old. So you're like right on, like spot on. What I'm going to say is that like, you're probably not wanting to go train jujitsu classes when you're 60 years old. Train them as a job. I mean, no, I was going to train for fun. Right. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, like working out or whatever, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You want to exercise that way, but maybe not like actually go to work and execute on that, right?
No, not at all.
And so, I mean, that's the same thing we saw in the fitness space, which is like, hey, you're not going to be teaching deadlifts and power cleans at 65 years old. And if you own this place, it's really just a cash flow machine that you're creating with your primary business. You're not really creating like a true wealth platform. And so what you're bringing to them is like some options and some just opening their mind to like, hey, what are you going to do with this in 10 years, 15 years? Like, where is this going? Because I think that a lot of times, at least the people I talk to, they really don't think about that.
No, they're just thinking about the business and, growing their gym. But it's like, man, you guys are thinking about what you're planning, because you are going to get older and you're going to want to travel. You're going to want to do things, so you got to have these thoughts in place and start building out plans.
Yeah. And it's never and maybe some of them think that they're going to sell their business that they built forever as their retirement plan, but holy smokes, man,
it's a small retirement plan.
Yeah, exactly. And so your best bet is just to be cognizant of it early on when you're kicking off some decent profit, and then you can carve out that profit and turn it into something else and keep cycling your money, right? So that you're getting checks from different directions.
Yep.
And so, I mean, man, kudos to you for what you're doing out there. Cause I think
Thank you.
That's a much needed aspect of small business, because there's so many guys that are in the fitness space, the MMA space, any of these fitness modalities that are in it because they're passionate about it and they're passionate about helping people and they're passionate about health, but which is more needed than ever.
Yeah.
But their financial aptitude and their actual forecasting for actually like taking care of themselves and having some forethought on anything outside of their body and their health. Like some of the guys I run into are like the most well-kept human beings internally that you would ever meet. Like they sleep the appropriate amount of times. Yep. They consume the appropriate chemicals. Like they're pictures of health, but how they're going to take care of themselves after they're not interested in running a gym anymore, which that day is going to come at some point, I'm sure. That they have no idea what to do or where to start with that situation.
And then they're old when they decide they want to start. And it's like, man, you should have done this 20 years ago.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, it's better to just get ahead of it and say, hey, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to carve out $50 a week. It doesn't even matter. Like, you just have to start somewhere, just like fitness, and build that muscle.
It's the same thing, same process.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is. It's deposits.
Lots
constantly, man. So kudos to you for doing what you're doing, man. Like, what is the number one thing that you think could help the majority of the gym owners in your space? Like what's the one overarching thing that you think would help them get ahead if they knew what you know today?
Man, the first thing is going to be super cliche, but it's mindset. You know, you have to change your mindset. You have to change the way you talk, the way you think about money. Cause you know, my generation that grew up was like, oh, we can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. You know, only rich people have money. It's like, and then you get older and you're like, none of that shit was real. Why was I told this? This is like crap. But you got to break through. I talk to guys my age and they still say that same shit. And I'm like, no, you got to get your head right. Cause even if you were to inherit money or win the lottery, you're going to blow it because you don't have any skills. So get your mindset right and start developing skills. Start reading basic books about finance. Even if it's boring, read some books about Warren Buffett, read some biographies, you know, of these guys that have done things like, because he hasn't done anything crazy. I mean, it's like, if you look at it, it's like he finds valuable businesses and buys them. It's like, and then he buys stock. It's like, it's not like he's like, well, I created this he's not like Elon Musk where he's trying to launch rockets to Mars. And he's just like, hey, Coca-Cola has a good dividend. They have a good dividend. I'm going to buy a lot of Coca-Cola stock because people drink Coca-Cola. So, you know, your mindset's the first thing is you got to get your mind right, you know, and look to be around people that are talking about those kind of things. Like I joke around, people come to my house, they kind of like, what the heck? That if the market's open, CNBC's on in my living room. My wife, my kids, we all watch it. We consume it. It's like, I know what's going on in the market at all times because that's like, I want to feed that into my brain. Like, oh, hey, this, and this, but man, getting your mindset right is the first thing. Just like in fitness, it's like you can get a trainer and get, you know, everything done. But if you don't believe that you can achieve the results, it's going to be so much harder.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think it comes like, for me, it came with like age and maturity and kind of dropping the ego as well. And just accepting the fact that this is going to be a really long road. Because like it makes it more palatable if you understand that it's going to be part of your life forever. And I'm talking about investing or fitness or whatever you want to talk about. Like, because there's so much flashiness out there, right? Like, oh, I went 0 to hero in 6 months. And like, truly that's not real. But in most cases, like, right. Well, I mean, we were talking about crypto and all that shit.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff.
Like, sometimes that does happen, but for the majority of us, like it is possible for everyone. What I tell everyone is that like, it doesn't take nearly as long as it feels like it's going to take, but it does take longer than you want it to.
Always.
And so like, it's just, but that's the same thing with building your business. But you can create financial freedom for yourself. And I said this to 100 times, but I believe it deeply that you can create financial freedom for yourself within like 3 to 7 years. If you buckle down, and I don't mean $1 billion. Right. I mean, in order for you to replace your job, whatever you're doing right now, you can probably do that in 3 to 7 years, regardless. But I mean, when I talk about freedom, it's going to be like kind freedom, right? If you, yep. If you make $40,000, like we can produce $40,000 of income for you a year within 3 to 7 years if you buckle down, and like cash flow matters, right? Huge. How much you can pump in there, and then how much you can delay gratification and keep that thing rolling. So
that's the tricky part.
You and I could talk forever, I'm sure, because I hate the stock market, and I have about $10,000 in there, and that is about it, that I don't even ever look at or do. I pulled my 401k out and cashed it out and paid the taxes on it. That's how much I hate the stock market. And I had a big 401k. I used to work at a Fortune 500 company for years. And no, that.
And that's one thing too, is people will give like, oh, I hate the stock market. And I tell people that's totally cool. I have one of my richest friends. He's funny because he was one of the guys that got me talking about money and thinking about it. And this is back in late 1999, 2000, when the markets are going crazy. And he literally put $1 million in the market. He made $1 million, and he lost all the $1 million that he made. And he's like, I can't deal with this. I cannot deal with this. Like, so he literally has never bought a stock since, but now he's got, $100 million in real estate. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Cause I tell people, you don't have to be good at the stock market. If you hate the market, get into investing. And you and I were talking about that. We're like similar, but different, where I'm like, man, I got to learn about real estate, because I've admittedly suck at it. I don't spend any time on it. I don't research it. I don't know anything about it. I just know I have my house, but there's so many things you can get into. There's crypto, there's stocks, there's real estate, there's crazy stuff with life insurance that, I'm learning about from some of the guys. I'm like, man, there's all this different things you can invest in. This is cool. But if you don't start putting money away, you can't do any of it.
Yep. That's all I do is overfunded whole life insurance and real estate, and now crypto.
Yep. It's cool. There's so many options out there. It's so cool. Yeah. Because the market is crazy. The stock market, it's just like anything. You can get caught up, and, bad timing is horrible. We're going through that right now where it's just bad.
I think you need to stay narrow though. Even in your investing. So like your business, you don't want to get 1 million offerings. You don't want to diversify into like making your business like offering all this shit. Like, do the simplicity of like In-N-Out Burger. We have a burger and fries, and that's all we do. I think that you need to do that with your investing as you get started, especially.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can't be like, I'm doing crypto, I'm doing real estate, I'm doing this, doing that. It's like, find some basic things you can do, start building out. Then when you start getting assets built up, then you can be like, we're in some groups where we start learning about other stuff. You're like, oh, there's syndicate deals. Cool. I mean, I get people money and I don't do anything. Okay. Right. I'm interested in that, cause like, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to go do the real estate stuff.
Right. You can also use like the second cycle of that money to go look into something else. So dig in hard, like educate yourself, network with the right people to get that first investment built. So it's doing something and kicking you some money on a regular basis, and then use that money maybe to take it out and do something else with, right? The interesting thing that I don't know if you ever heard Dan Fleischman say this, but he said he put in his investment principles are 40, 40, 20, and the 40% of his money goes into stuff that does like really boring, like 3 to 8%, no matter what. Then 40% goes into like a middle tier, like let's say 6 to 15% returns, little riskier, but like still pretty steady. And then 20% are your home run. That's your home run money. So you throw 20% into something that may like 300x it. Yeah. But your 80% of your investment principles are always churning at that like 3 to 15%. Like you really, I mean, that's a pretty safe model. You really can't go wrong with something like that.
No.
And you can build that investment muscle by sticking to just that simple cadence right there.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a great model, because that way you're not putting, everybody's like, I'm putting all my money in, micro cap coins, on the blockchain. You're like, might not be the best idea. It's like, but you don't, but the thing is, on those speculative things, you don't need a lot of money to make a crazy return and get some, money out of it. But yeah, unfortunately, you gotta have some kind of safe bets too. Cause fluctuations and all that stuff. That's, the older you get, the more you get worried about that, especially if you're 60 years old, you're going to be like, yeah, I want everything not to move. Just like stay there.
Exactly. Awesome. Awesome, Paul. Hey, well, man, thanks for coming on today. How can people find you if they want to hook up with you?
Man, the best place, I love Instagram. Facebook is a necessary evil in my world, so I'm on it, but I don't enjoy it as much. So I like Instagram. You can go to PAUL.HALME on Instagram, or my website, paulhalme.com. But yeah, I just love Instagram. It's a happier place. And it's funny because, you get to meet people, then you see their stories. It's like you talked about earlier. It's like you see their stories, you're like, oh, I vibe with this person. This person is pretty cool. Or you see somebody's story and you're like, I don't ever want to hang out with this person ever. So it's like, stories that you see even deeper into people's lives and stuff. And you develop kind of the people you want to hang around with and learn from and keep growing with.
100%. I agree with that. I love it. Love it, man. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can obviously see his Instagram handle right up in the top corner. So thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate your time. It's been an awesome interview.
This was fun.
I appreciate it. Let me know if I can ever help you. Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Tactical Empire.